applause already for that one.
So thank you everyone, and thank you Mariana for the award and the introduction. My name is Rohit Khot. I am a PhD student at RMIT University, and I am presenting today a new approach for designing palatable representations on physical activity. This is the work done in collaboration with my lovely co-authors, Floyd, who is here, Dipti, who is also here, and Jiwan and Larissa currently couldn't be here. So let us start the research by pouring down some background. So in recent years, we have witnessed a growing interest in using technology to foster healthy lifestyles among individuals. As a result, a variety of different wearable tracking devices have surfaced in the market. These devices track different aspects of our lives and provide us with opportunity to reflect and contemplate on our behavior. However, most of the data tracked by these devices is abstract in nature. For example, heart rate. And it does not hold any one-to-one relationship with our real-world objects. As a result, it requires skills as well as expertise from designers to create meaningful mappings so that users can easily understand the data and make it actionable to his or her health-related aims. Since visualization has been proven useful in professional settings, a variety of work tried to leverage its potential to represent such personal information. For example, here you see a commercial activity tracker, CHI'15, and the information is presented in the form of numbers and a graph. We also see there is a predominant use of screen in order to portray information. So if you see, the screen on one hand offers the capacity to stimulate our visual senses, but on the other hand, it also reduces the interaction to just reading of information. And it ignores the variety of other senses that are available to us besides vision. And a bigger question comes in terms of for what purposes this self-activity tracking data should be used in our lives. Since such devices are becoming increasingly pervasive in our lives, what we design with them shouldn't be just limited to making ourselves more aware about our data and prompting us towards next achievable health goals. Such instrumental or quantified approach might be good for athletes who wants to train themselves for certain events or marathons, but it may not hold the same kinds of value for a casual jogger. So we felt there is a need to explore alternate design strategies, and this paper particularly present one such strategy. Another thing that motivated us behind this work was the synergy that we find between the way we exercise in order to spend energy, and we then consume back drink in order to gain back those lost energy. Since current activity trackers can easily track how much energy we have invested during exercise, wouldn't it be great if somehow that energy is converted back into some form which you can consume? So motivated by that idea, we present palatable representations which transform physical activity data into an appetizing drink, which user can utilize to replenish the loss of body fluids during exercise. Additionally, we also utilize a very familiar fountain-based interaction to celebrate the experience of being physically active. So as a proof of concept, we present a system called TestyBeats, which some of you might have seen if you have been to last year's CHI interactivity or this year's TI. Here, the setup of the system is very simple. It has a central glass in the middle, and 4 containers across. I don't think but I'll explain along with it. So what I did was, I divided the heart rate data of a physical activity into 4 different zones, and then mapped a characteristic drink for each of those zones. So for example, if the user is not much active or generally being sedentary, then it is represented with a water. But as user starts warming up or doing moderate kinds of activities like walking, then we represent it as a flavored water. But as user does more high workouts, aerobic as well as anaerobic, then he might require replacements of body fluids, so we utilize an electrolyte drink. And when user is really pushing his limits, and reaching very high heart rate values, then we indicate such occurrences by using such dark colored drink. So we pour all those drink in these containers and the magic happens, which is captured in a video. So user initially wears a heart rate monitor in order to record heart rate data. And that's the system setup, as you can see. So as user is warming, her heart rate will be in lower range. So the water, it gets poured into the central glass, but as she is doing slightly more physical activities, then the drinks from the other containers get inserted in the central glass. Since we believe that each individual is unique and the way a body responds to exercise is different for different exercise, so the drink which is created at the end would be distinctly personalized to an individual and the kind of exercises that the person is doing. So after designing the system, we then did an in-the-file study with 6 participants for the period of 2 weeks. We installed the system in their home and asked them to record their entire day's data every day, and in the evening prepare a drink, which summarizes their entire day's activity. After the end of 2 weeks, we conducted semi-structural interviews, but during the period we also employed a cultural probing, so we asked them to write in diaries how they felt, or even record audio memos. So this intervention led to many key insights, some of which I particularly highlight in today's talk. So most people enjoyed seeing their data represented in a palatable form. So once they come back home at work, they were surprised to see that some system is preparing themselves a drink to get refreshed. And by seeing how the water flows into the central jar, they get an abstract idea of how eventful their day was. Although it wasn't as detailed as you could see in a mobile app where the entire data is recorded in numbers, but most athletes, most participants were happy with it. For example, Rose said to us that for a non-athlete like her, such abstract form of information is more than enough. Moreover, people also appreciated the taste of the drink, and they could easily correlate subtle changes. They could identify for different activities, and seems to have some kind of personal affection with their drinks. As a result, the drinks was never shared. One interesting case happened that it also nurtured healthy eating for one of the participants. They usually, when he used to come at home after work, usually used to eat anything he can find from kitchen. So usually some kinds of sweet or snacks. But during the study, he stopped that habit and usually used to have only the drink, which was prepared by the system, and waited till the dinner before eating anything else. And he then said to us that I will, from now onwards, will switch to more healthier habits and won't go for any junk food. Since the system was also shared, since the system was installed in each house and it was shared by 2 participants, in such a way it also facilitated a social experience. For example, they were not only excited to seeing their own data, but they were also excited to see how others' data gets reflected. So it resulted into a healthier competition amongst themselves. And one interesting case came from Adam. Like Adam on one day didn't do much activity. He was just relaxing at home, watching TV. So when he prepared his drink, he only get a drink containing water and very small quantity. But on the same day, his other partner, Rahim, who was also participating in the study, did a lot of activity. He played soccer, he went to gym. And so usually they used to prepare drink together. So when they came together and prepared drink, he got a really large quantity drink with all the flavors. So they were laughing about it for a while. But Adam was still thirsty. So what he did was he tried cheating the system, and he used the Rahim's data and created a drink for him. But when he tried to drink it, it didn't taste good for him. So he himself said in the audio memos that he felt it was something very personal to Rahim, and he should not have drank that. So besides having a personal affection with the drink, we were surprised to see that people could also see that the drink actually embodied somebody else's energy, and I shouldn't really mess up with that. And finally, it also generated a better understanding of each other because of the shared public display, they could easily see how each other's day, how eventful they were. For example, Chad and Sarah both were a full-time employee, and they only used to see each other during evenings when they prepared the drink. So for 3 or 4 consecutive days, Sarah had very high heart rates. So they were puzzled, like, what was the reason? So later on, they came to know that she was on some medications which were actually causing this high heart rate. You might say that this could also be facilitated by a mobile app, but how many people could actually look at somebody else's mobile app and how much heart rate it's happening? So such public displays actually kind of easier, kind of a way to actually build a shared understanding of each other's physiological levels. So based upon this study and the insights we got from the study, we present 3 recommendations which are valid for 3 different related areas of personal informatics, visualization, and a very upcoming area, human-food interaction. So the first recommendation we have is try to help users to build the story to tell. So if you present data in the form of numbers and very accurately, very detailed, it leaves very less scope for building up a story. But if you use materials such as drinks, such as fountains, which has some narratives associated with it in a social life, it gives users opportunity for storytelling and narratives. So in that way, it could lead to better engagement. Secondly, most of the quantified self or personal informatics tools are geared towards individual use. So you look at your data on your own phone, but by facilitating a social display or a public display, you not only can facilitate self-expression, healthy competition, but could also lead to better understanding of each other, which could be certainly useful in order to identify bodily warning signals, as we found in one of the users' home. And finally, our systems also touches the topic of food printing, which is currently very mechanical and people are still struggling. You might have seen my project yesterday where I presented at CHI on chocolate printing, which is still not at the stage which we could have it in our kitchen and use it in every day. So if you've been to today's Laura's talk, she was talking about aesthetics. So try to leverage design, try to leverage food aesthetics when people wants to create something around food and how food printing is happening. And finally, we would like to leave this talk with this take-home message, that is, make the invisible palatable. With current personal informatics tools, it's now possible to actually see invisible data such as a heart rate in the form of a numbers or a graphs, but it's very easy to ignore them or just forget about them. But if you make it palatable, it's very tempting, and it's not that easier to forget or ignore. And in this work, we only touch the surface of palatable representations, and in future, I encourage other researchers to actually take this work forward, and I expect more interesting work in upcoming CHI. Thank you.
Questions? If you have questions on the tasty beats, please come to microphone. But I have a question. Maybe
yes,
you could
yes.
Just clarify, how does it work? So in your field study, I come home and then I give the heart rate, or is it collecting the data remotely and it's filling up over the day?
Yes, it's filling up over the day.
Okay, and how did you change the taste, well, the drinks, basically? Did you go there and change it, or did people change
we supplied the drinks,
okay.
so they themselves have to put it into the containers,
okay.
but the interaction was automated.
Okay, I see. Please.
Hi, I'm Jae-jung Kim from KAIST Korea.
Hello.
Thank you for your very interesting work. I'm curious, does your Tasty Beats system actually show the process of that final outcome? It seems like this is an integrated outcome of the
Yep.
actual exercise. So does it show any, or could it show any process of how it builds up the outcome?
So that's why we use the fountain-based interaction. So it actually shows how your heart rate has transited between different zones. So it requires some kinds of a mapping between the heart rate data. So if you had a very large duration, then you have to actually quantify it in different intervals and only look at the bigger chunks. So if my heart rate has made from low activity to a moderate activity, then a jump will occur. So it's not as detailed as you can see in a graph, but it can give you a basic understanding.
Also, it shows the process of building up that drink in a graph type of visualization after your exercise?
No, we didn't use any kinds of graphical visualization.
So-
The only visualization they saw was the fountains.
So you need to be there at the fountain while you exercise, is that correct? To see how it's building up?
Yes. If you are using the system along with your exercise, the system can be used in two ways. Mostly the system that we created was after the exercise. So you do exercise, measure your performance, and then feed the data to the system. So it will prepare a drink for you.
Okay. One more short question.
Yes, sure.
How did you design or estimate the maximum amount of that drink?
So we did a lot of trials. So they are mentioned in the paper, and then we figured it out. So the glass that we used were filled by 30 shoots. So we made it sure that it is within the 30 shoots.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Layla from the University of Maryland. I'm
Hi.
just curious, so the drinks that were being made, was it done while they were out jogging, or once they came back, then they watched all of the drinks being
Once
made?
they came back in the evening.
Okay, so they could actually see, because I was curious, if you're not showing them a graph and they're just seeing something when they get home and it's like this mashup of colors, and how do they know? But it makes sense. Okay, so after they come home,
Yes.
it makes it
Yes.
cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks very much for the
Thank you.
presentation.